I make a lot of Graphgans, and over the years I've picked up a bunch of really useful tips and tricks. Today I want to share some of them with you and hopefully make your Graphgan experience a little bit smoother. Now my first tip is probably really obvious, but it took me way too long to figure this out, so I'm including it anyway. When you're making a Graphgan project or any COLORWORK project, you have to alternate which way you turn your work. Otherwise you end up with this twisted mess. Let me show you what I mean. So if you're working with a normal project with just one working yarn attached, it doesn't matter if you always turn your work in the same direction at the end of your row. But that is not the case with a Graphgan. To avoid yarn tangles, at the end of your right side row, turn your work in one direction, and at the end of your wrong side row, turn it in the other direction. That is without a doubt the easiest way to avoid yarn tangles, but if you're still having issues, tip number 2 is for you. I recently got this yarn holder and these bobbins, and it has really helped keep my yarn organized whilst I'm working. When I get to the point where I need to add a new yarn, I wind the yarn onto one of these bobbins, and then I slide the bobbin onto the yarn holder, making sure to add the bobbins in the order that they're going to be used. You can then continue working using the yarn from the bobbin. With this method, you'll experience fewer tangles and have a more enjoyable Graphgan making journey. Tip 3 is all about the dreaded gauge swatches. If your gauge swatch looks like this, you're probably doing it wrong. Graphgans are COLORWORK projects, and that means that your swatches need to have COLORWORK in them too. For many people, changing colours will affect their tension, particularly if you're relatively unexperienced in COLORWORK. So next time you're swatching for a Graphgan project, remember to throw in some colour changes to get a more accurate gauge. Tip number 4 is all about having a dedicated area for your project. Ideally, this space should allow you to set up your yarn holder if you're using one, and the project itself, and if possible, leave it undisturbed. Personally, I find that working at a desk or table is best. Graphgans, given their size and multiple attached yarns, aren't the most portable projects, so having a dedicated space ensures a more organized and hassle-free experience. Tip 5 is a really important one, but one I had to find out the hard way, unfortunately. For me, Graphgans are the kind of project where I get in the mindset of, just one more row, which is great for productivity, but it's not great for your arms, your wrist, your hand. And I often find myself crocheting for really extended periods of time, and the following day, I just have a really sore arm. So just make sure when you are working on these big projects that you are taking regular breaks and remembering to stretch. So that's my 5 tips, but I do actually have an extra bonus tip for you. If you're the kind of person who likes watching TV whilst you're crocheting, you might find it a bit tricky when you're working on something like a Graphgan because you're constantly having to look at a pattern or a chart. For that reason, audiobooks are my go-to form of entertainment when I'm making Graphgans. I use an app called Everand, which gives you unlimited access to all of their audiobooks and ebooks for just $10.99 a month. I'll pop a referral link down in the description if you want to try it out for free for 1 month. If you found these Graphgan tips helpful and you'd like a few more, sign up to my email newsletter. I'll leave a link down in the description, and I will send you 5 more tips to your inbox. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.